Today I'm reacting to 7 of the weirdest things ever found inside the human body. So once again, I've challenged my team to scour the internet and compile the list for today's lesson with one goal: to take me by surprise. And at this point, I've seen a lot of things, so that might be difficult.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Last time we did this, we encountered a woman whose mouth was impregnated by a squid, a belly full of coins, a fir tree growing in a man's lung, and a man carrying his undeveloped twin, among several other equally surprising cases. Once you've spent enough time in the medical profession, you realize there is no shortage of weird cases. I haven't seen anything on today's list, so let's react together in real time as we attempt to deepen our understanding of human anatomy.
He said it! He said it!
And possibly identify anything that may stretch the truth a little too far. Apparently, our first patient is a 22-year-old man with grills stuck in his lung. The New York Post article reads, "A man is lucky to be alive after he suffered an epileptic seizure and almost choked to death on his dentures." The unnamed 22-year-old man from Wisconsin was wearing a row of silver fake teeth when he suffered the freak accident, resulting in heavy coughing and wheezing. He was taken to the hospital where an x-ray was taken, revealing that he had a 1.5-inch denture stuck in the airway of his lung, according to the case study published this week in Curious Medical Journal. Not gonna lie, that's a little bit strange and a little bit surprising. And that's largely because the trachea and the bronchioles are not that large, anywhere from maybe 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch in diameter. And so this is a 1.5-inch grill. Not only that, but to make it down into the airway, he has to get past the vocal cords where the airway has been constricted, and there are 2 cords that come together that close the opening to protect it from foreign bodies from entering the airway. So in order to make it down there, the grill had to be swallowed. It had to make it through the pharynx and then into the larynx, and it had to make it through past the vocal cords. And then it continued on until it was basically stuck.
We're just gonna do it. So this is sterling silver on, I think, SI diamonds, and we shall test, and then I shall swallow them. RIP. This could be dangerous. Yeah, I feel it going down. Feels a little stuck there. All right, have a good day, boys.
So this just tells me that the force of his seizure, or the muscle force that was generated as a result of his seizure, was significantly high in order to have this piece of metal make it all the way down there around all of those curves and through all of those constricted or tight spaces. This is something that the body would not react to, and especially because of its size compared to the size of the airway. So this is something that might also elicit bronchospasm, and this would make it very difficult to breathe. Fortunately for this individual, they were able to remove the grill or the denture by way of bronchoscopy, which is where they use a device which is on a flexible tube with a camera that they can put in the mouth, and then they can go down the airway and use a tool to grab or latch onto the denture to then extract it. I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't have to do anything other than that, because again, the size of it is quite large, but perhaps with enough relaxation, that's something that they could do. That's a good start. Let's move on to the next one. Doctors thought the strange bleeding bumps on Aaron Dallas's head might be from gnat bites or shingles. Then the bumps started moving. Oh my God. A doctor found 5 active botfly larvae living beneath the skin atop Dallas's head. Oh my Lord. So if you've learned anything about me over 300 plus videos, it's that I really don't like insects. And so this one, although not surprising and not really weird, it really makes my skin crawl. I really don't like insects. It really makes my skin crawl. So Dallas told him that he could feel them moving on his scalp while he was feeling the back of his head with his hand. And not only could he feel them, but he could also hear them. Oh God, this just gets grosser and grosser. The patient had been traveling in Belize earlier that summer. And in certain parts of the world, particularly in Central and South America, it's not uncommon for people to be infected by bot flies. So basically, the bot fly will land on them, and then they will implant their eggs into the skin or into the tissues of the host.
Here's animation of another botfly that tackles a mosquito mid-flight and attaches her eggs to the insect's belly. When the mosquito feeds on a human, body heat triggers the eggs to hatch into larvae, which burrow into the wound. But it pokes its rump out of your skin so it can poop, which is courteous.
I'm not really knowledgeable about bot flies other than what I just said, but apparently they are hairy. They look like bees. The larvae, oh my goodness, they are about 1/3 the size of a penny. So not huge, but oh my Lord, that's just gross. So they were living inside of a pit inside of his scalp, and then in order to eradicate them, they basically have to be physically removed. So you have to take them out with tweezers or forceps or some kind of grasping device. One of the interesting things in this article is that it said that his doctor initially confused or mistaked the rash that he had with shingles. Shingles is basically the adult manifestation of chickenpox. Rather than open ulcers, you get a very red, very angry, and very, very painful rash, which occurs in a dermatomal distribution. So with the weird looking rash that he had, the very, very high level of pain that he was experiencing from this, I can understand why his doctor might think that he had, he may have thought that, oh yeah, this is the start of shingles. So I can see that. Let's move on to number 3. It felt like I had been stabbed. Says patient left with 33 centimeter metal plate inside after surgery. Sylvia Dubé couldn't figure out why she was overcome with pain in her shoulder after she woke up following an operation at a Montreal hospital for ovarian cancer. Feeling discouraged, Sylvia and her spouse showed up at the emergency room at the Notre Dame Hospital more than 2 months after the surgery on May 22nd. That's when Dubé underwent an x-ray. Puzzled radiologists told her there was a large medical instrument lodged inside her stomach. Okay, so this one's a little bit weird, but it's not really that surprising. So let's talk about this for a moment. Is it normal to experience pain away from the site of a hysterectomy? This is what we call referred pain. It may be possible for you to have surgery in one area and then have pain in another. And that's just because if the nerve travels down a particular path and you operate on a structure at the end of the nerve, sometimes that nerve will become irritated, and then something further up the path may also have some pain. So they talked about in this article her having a 30 centimeter metal plate in her stomach. I think what they're talking about is what we call a malleable retractor. Obviously, inside the abdomen, there are a whole lot of organs and a whole lot of stuff that are packed very tightly in there and very efficiently, by the way. And when we are attempting to do surgery, we need to retract a bunch of those things out of the way. One of the retractors that general surgeons and gynae surgeons will use is called a malleable retractor. And basically this is a metal bar. It is flexible, so it will bend. Oftentimes they'll use this retractor to push away all the other organs so that they have good access to the organ on which they're working. It's great to be able to use a retractor that you can put in there and it can hold everything by itself. Obviously, you have to make sure that you remember that it's there. And sometimes you might push it way up underneath the diaphragm so that it's out of sight. You can't see it. Usually at the beginning of every case and then again at the end of every case, we will count the instruments. But it's a little bit concerning and a little bit surprising that someone didn't check the count. And generally speaking, the count is done before the wound is closed, so you have an opportunity to go back in and check things out. A 50-year-old man was seen at the accident and emergency department because of abdominal pain. Physical examination revealed peritonitis, or an inflammation of the lining of the abdomen. A shadow of an eel was noticed on the abdominal radiograph. On further questioning, the patient admitted an eel was inserted into the rectum in an attempt to relieve constipation. Oh boy. Like, who told him that? So reading on, they found this 50-centimeter long eel, which was biting the splenic flexure of the colon. So this eel had made it a reasonable distance before it finally got irritated and said, what the heck? In order to get this out, they had to do a laparotomy, and they found that this eel, it had made it up from the rectum and started to make its way back through the colon as it's trying to find its way out. And then it had bitten this patient on the inside at the splenic flexure. There was a 3-centimeter laceration, so it had basically made a hole there. This was the cause of the peritonitis. Oh my God. Like, there are so many easier ways to do this. You know, he could have taken a laxative, he could have done an enema. I'm not sure why he jumped immediately to the eel up the rectum. This guy had an ostomy. After he had healed, they reversed the ostomy and they put everything back on the inside. This could have gone so much worse. He could have become septic because of the fecal contamination, and he could have died. A 23-year-old male patient seeks the emergency department with extreme difficulty urinating and bleeding from the urethra, with a history that 3 days ago he had suffered an attack by a fish from the Amazon region known as Candiru, and that it had penetrated his urethra when he was urinating in the river. He reported that he tried to hold it, but it was very flat and seemed to be small. Okay. This is weird, and yeah, right away this suggests to me that there is some kind of blockage there. Under anesthesia, they perform cystoscopy. So this is again where we have a tube which is flexible and you can control how it moves, and it has a camera at the end. The fish had actually made its way up the entire length of the penis, right up to the urinary sphincter. It says here that the surgeons considered opening the perineum in order to gain access to the location where this fish was, but fortunately for this patient, they were able to remove it endoscopically. So using that camera device that I talked about, they were able to not only visualize it, but they could use a grasping tool to then take the fish, grasp it within the urethra, and then pull it back out through the urethra opening. Thankfully for this patient, they were able to get it out the same way that it had gone in and not have to create a separate opening to try to access the area where it had become lodged. I am hoping that after they removed the fish, that there were not any significant injuries to his urethra. I gotta say, this is weird, because it's like, I've not heard of this type of behavior in a fish. Granted, that's an area of the world with which I'm not that familiar, so I did not know that there was a fish that might do this. If any of you know, be sure to comment down in the comment section below and let me know. But this is not something that I had heard of. We still got a few more. Let's see if they can top this. According to Columbia reports, the 22-year-old unidentified woman sought medical attention after experiencing abdominal pains. After medical staff discovered a potato, the woman explained her mother had told her to insert it as a means of preventing pregnancy. My mom told me that if I didn't want to get pregnant, I should put a potato up there, and I believed her, the woman said. Oh my God. And reading on more here, it said that roughly she'd had this potato inside her for about 2 weeks, after which she began to experience abdominal pain. And at that point, the potato had germinated and it was starting to grow roots inside the young woman. I'm actually surprised that she might have this in there for a 2-week period of time before she started to experience pain. And I'm a little bit surprised that it actually had started to germinate. But then again, thinking about it, you have a warm, moist environment, warm and moist. And it also says here that the nurse who examined this patient thought it was just a bizarre practical joke after she saw roots emerging from the woman's vagina. Oh my Lord, man. That is certainly not anything that you would expect to find coming out of a patient.
You don't say.
Also, I'm just wondering why the young lady would not have noticed that herself and thought, hey, something is not right here. Fortunately for this young lady, the potato was removed without surgery, and she was said to have no lasting effects. So I think it's a little bit funny that, I can remember saying things to my kids when they were young that to me were obviously not real, but kids are asking a million questions, they're at you all the time, and sometimes you might see some kind of response to them just to have them stop bothering you. And I kind of think this was something her mother said out of frustration, when her daughter was asking her potentially about sex or about birth control, so that she could get the daughter to not want to think about having sex. But unfortunately, the daughter took it seriously and she did it. Those have all been pretty good. Let's see if they can top it with this last one. Police in North Carolina believe that despite multiple searches after a traffic violation, a suspect managed to sneak a 10-inch gun into a prison by concealing the weapon in his rectum. Okay. Apparently this guy was strip searched after that he was booked in, and he underwent the standard squat and cough procedure.
Routine search procedure includes having the inmate squat and cough while naked.
Squat down and cough 3 times. What's in there? Pull whatever's in there out.
There's nothing in there.
There is something.
There's nothing in here.
They're up there. You know where they're at. Now pull them out. Thank you. And some type of pills.
So this guy had no place else to put this but up his butt. Even after they strip searched him, they couldn't find anything. It was, he had hidden it well.
Hey, they're gone. Did they look in your butt? No, they didn't look in my butt. It's still in there? Yes, it's in there. Wow.
When they did the squat and cough procedure, which is basically a position where your digestive tract is optimally positioned or primed to expel its contents, nothing came out.
Must be deep. It is.
And that's not surprising, actually, given the shape of the gun and considering the size of the gun. The next day, they found this .38 caliber handgun in his cell. They took him to the hospital after that discovery so that he could be assessed for any potential injuries. They discovered that he had not suffered any injuries, which is that in and of itself is surprising, because so all 10 inches have to make it inside your the rectum is obviously soft tissue, but
That's called motherfucking bars, and you know nothing about that.
the gun is not. And so although the rectal tissue has some ability to conform around the shape of the gun, so the barrel may lacerate or cut the soft tissue on the inside of the rectum, and potentially, if the rectum were to contract hard enough, could actually lacerate and cut or perforate the rectum. As with one of the earlier cases, you have spillage of fecal tissue into the peritoneum. It's surprising that that didn't happen. But the thing that I find most surprising, within the period of time that he was pulled over and then arrested, okay? So he stopped, there's police lights behind him. Police officer gets out of their vehicle, walk up to his vehicle, talks to him. Even if the police officer went back to their car and then came back again, within that short period of time, he was able to take this gun, pull his pants down enough that he would have access to his anus. He was then able to force this gun up through his anal sphincter and into his rectum, and then put his pants all back on before the police officer took him out of his vehicle and arrested him.
What?
Yeah.
That?
This.
In your butt? I was picturing something like this big.
Yeah.
Like, this whole thing is weird and it's surprising. But that's the thing that's the most surprising to me, that he could do that while in a seated position without looking too obvious.
Have you been smoking any pot today?
No. Like, this dude is like Harry Houdini. I think it's good that he managed to unload the gun before he put it up there. I'm glad that he had the foresight. But yeah, like I said, this dude is a literal magician. So this one was a great one to finish on, because I think for sure, at least to me, it was both weird and surprising. I did not see that one coming. So, Team Dr. Chris, you knew the assignment. Nice job. Well done. Well, interns, there you have it. And believe it or not, the list that my team provided goes on quite a bit longer. If you're interested in another video like this, a part 3, then let me know in the comment section down below. Remember to join me at my online gym, Human 2.0, for free right here on YouTube, where we help you prevent injury and move better. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you didn't, be sure to let me know why in the comment section down below. Otherwise, as always, that's been a word from Dr. Chris, not your everyday ortho, where we see one, do one, teach one.